Hi, I'm Michael Dobson. As a speaker, trainer, consultant, and author, I've been working in the areas of project management, risk management, and creativity for many years. I've written quite a few books on various topics, and today I want to tell you about Project Impossible, how the great leaders of history identified, solved, and accomplished the seemingly impossible, and how you can too. As a keynote, as a workshop, or in terms of consulting, I can show you how you and your team can succeed against all odds, even when the project handed to you is, on the face of it, completely impossible. I have first-hand experience. As part of the team that built the Smithsonian's National Air and Space Museum, I helped accomplish this mammoth U.S. federal government project ahead of schedule and under budget. As head of design and marketing for the company that made Dungeons & Dragons, we had to cope with the end of our time as a fad. The company downsized 75%, the products increased 33%. It was widely considered impossible, and yet we turned the company around. Operationally impossible isn't the same thing as theoretically impossible. When we say nothing's impossible, we mean, given unlimited time, unlimited resources, and really flexible performance standards, we can do pretty much anything, and yes, we can. But that doesn't have a lot to do with real life. In real life, our projects, our work assignments are bounded. How much time do we have? How much money can we spend? What exactly do we have to accomplish? And most of all, how do we deal with it within an acceptable range of risk? That's where operational impossibility comes from. And it can happen for many reasons. Contradictory requirements, stakeholder wars, as evidenced in the problems that plagued Denver International Airport. Sometimes constraints are guesses, as in the case of Boston's Big Dig, and sometimes they're just imposed by the situation, as in the case of the Allied High Command at the time of the Battle of the Bulge. Supreme General Dwight Eisenhower called a meeting of his senior staff to announce, "The Germans are attacking through the Ardennes. How quickly can we get troops to Bastogne?" His commander in the sector, Field Marshal Montgomery, said it'll take weeks, but George Patton spoke up and says, "I'll attack with 3 divisions within 48 hours. This did not go over well with the other generals, and in fact, Patton's immediate boss, Omar Bradley, said, "Ike wants a realistic answer, George." And you know, Bradley had a point. The units that Patton was talking about were already in combat. They needed to be pulled out. Vehicles need gas. People need food. Soldiers need ammunition, and they need it not just at the end, but all along the route. They're moving through hostile terrain with the possibility of enemy attack. That takes even more forces to provide protection. And it was to be done without cell phones, laptops, or GPS units, just mimeograph machines and radios. Any way you look at it, weeks of planning were required. And yet, 48 hours later, Patton was on the way. How did he do it when all common sense says it can't be done? Well, Patton understood one trick for how to manage the impossible project. Charles Lindbergh knew another trick when he started his competition for the Orteig Prize for the first person to make a non-stop solo flight between New York and Paris. He was already far behind the competition. His competitors had been flight testing for months when the Spirit of St. Louis was still on the drawing boards. Lindbergh was taking a much riskier course of action. 1 pilot, not 3. 1 engine, not 3. Everything rode on his luck and his skill. And it was enough because on May 20, 1927, the Spirit of St. Louis took off into history. People have surmounted impossible challenges everywhere you look. In the case of Apollo 13, when oxygen tank number 2 ruptured, the situation was even more dire than portrayed in the movie. And by the way, that famous statement in the movie Apollo 13, "Failure is not an option"? Well, Gene Kranz, credited with that remark, never actually said it. What he did say, the Kranz dictum, had been responsible for turning NASA into an organization that achieved literal perfection in the art of crisis management. Julius Caesar was outnumbered, undersupplied, with no backup and no reserves in the Battle of Alesia. and he and his men built over 20 miles of fortifications in record time and defeated an army nearly 5 times its size. The mysterious statues on Easter Island are so hard to imagine how anybody could actually have sculpted them, moved them, and set them upright, that at least one person attributed them to space aliens. Yet that impossible project was done as well. How can one man, one lone man, armed with nothing but his moral core, no army and no fortune, manage to overthrow the most powerful empire in history? And yet, Mohandas K. Gandhi succeeded. Impossible projects can be analyzed using a standard methodology. In Project Impossible, you'll learn a step-by-step methodology that you and your team can use to break down and solve even the most intractable project challenges. You'll learn why you should never think outside the box and what you should do instead. Project Impossible is only one of the different programs I teach in the areas of project management, risk, and creativity. Some of the topics: war in the office when conflict gets out of control; the 7th dimension of project management, a study of risk and how they relate to the triple constraints; and sidewise thinking, the art of being creative, on time, on budget, and to spec, as well as the full range of customized presentations and workshops on any aspects of project management, risk, and creativity, tailored to your organization's special, unique needs. Project Impossible. As a keynote, a workshop, or a book, if caught or killed, the speaker will disavow any knowledge of your mission.